Well, two videos in one day. Uncle xLights is getting crazy on a Saturday. So, Ron Howard, yours truly from Extreme Sequences, bringing you a update on what's new for me and my workflow in 2022. This has not been an easy decision, but I have moved from a Windows platform to a Mac platform for all of my work, and that includes xLights, video, photography, Microsoft Office, whatever it might be. I have the Mac looking pretty much like my Windows environment as far as all the applications, and I'm learning a few new applications just because some things don't transfer well from Windows to Mac, and I'm living with that. That's okay. It's sort of fun for me to exercise the brain and learn something new, and I'm enjoying it. But I want to explain why. And then I'm going to share some of the hardware components that I've had to put in to make this MacBook Pro do what I need to. Two things. I'm always worried about losing files, and I have offline backups. I think I use Backblaze, I do, and that's great. It grabs everything from Windows and behind the scenes, it'll upload it, and I have that. But I also wanted something that was a little more agnostic that I could put between my MacBook Pro and my Windows desktop. That was an expensive build, a custom build from Zydex. And I did some research last year about NAS, Network Attached Storage, which I was not really up to speed on. I didn't really understand the ins and outs of it, and I do know a lot more about it now. And it's capable of running a RAID system, which I've run RAID systems in the past. That's not new to me, but this separate box, and I'll show you what that picture looks like, and you'll see the cost from Amazon. So if you're ever looking for something like that, QNAP is a pretty good reputable brand. There's Synology, and then there's some others out there. But I'll share with you that in just a little bit. But I wanted something in between that I could reach on my network and also reach from afar should I need a file. So I spent some time getting all these files from my Windows computer to this network attached storage. And that is giving me the ability to pull down files when I need it without having to keep them permanently on my hard drives. So that's a cool thing. And there's a ton more it can do. I won't get into the whole Plex server type things. And yeah, there's just a lot. But anyway, back to the whole Mac versus Windows for xLights. I spent 7 years with xLights now. And one of my pet peeves, and I've just learned to live with it, is the crashing and just things that just go a little bit slower on the Windows side. I'm not sure why. You may not experience this, and that's great. This is just my personal experience. I'm in xLights nearly every day of the year, and so I push it a little bit. So maybe I'm one of those power users. Can you crash a Mac version of xLights? Sure, I did it this last week. It was awesome. I shared the screenshot with Dan Culp, and we had a good laugh about it. So certainly, it'll crash in either platform, but I believe it crashes much less on the Mac platform. It also is whippier. Now, this MacBook Pro M1 Max that I have is just a beast of a laptop. So I want to say this right off the bat. This is not a laptop you need to go out and purchase for $4,200 if you're not going to make money from it, or if you're not doing a lot of video editing, 4K, 6K, 8K files, then you're probably, it's a little overkill, unless you just want it. And if you do, heck, go get it. And I'll share with you a place that you can get it where you can probably get 2-day shipping. So don't buy from the Apple Store, because you're looking at March or April before you'll get the doggone thing. Okay, let's get into some things about this version of xLights on the Mac. This is a beta version that Dan Culp sent to me. He wanted me to test a few things to make sure that when you exported the video, you were seeing everything, and that it would import into Final Cut Pro, and that the quality looked good. I haven't tested this on the Windows yet, but I can tell you without a doubt, if I go over here and I tell this to export house preview, the quality of this is better than what I was getting on my Windows. Now, again, this may be just something they worked on and fixed. Great, I love it. But I'm able now just to export House Preview directly into Final Cut Pro for my video editing, and it's fantastic. What I had to do before was use a screen recording capture tool called MOV AVI, and then I would export that, and then I would bring it into what was I using? Vegas Pro 19, and then I would export that. So now I can skip a few steps. So this is brilliant in this platform. And I'm sure maybe it is again on the Windows platform, but I haven't tested that yet, okay? The other things on here, nothing is really too different. That went to a different window. That's really strange, but okay, I'll go with it. You've still got your backups, you've got your views, your grids, sequences, colors. I don't know what it is, but it just seems like everything looks more vibrant in this world. Granted, this is dark mode, which I love. It puts so much less strain on my eyes, so I really am loving that. And then we'll talk a little bit about the hardware video decoding, and we will certainly talk about render cache in the Mac world. I'm never going to need it again. Let's get into some of the hardware that I've purchased to make my world work for me. So this is the MacBook Pro that I purchased, and I purchased this after I got my NAS, and I really wanted to think about it. It's expensive. I went with the upgrades on just about everything except the hard drive space. It was $400 for 2 terabytes, and I was able to get an external that runs on the USB-C 3.2, and I'll tell you what that means in a minute. It's important, for 4 terabytes for $400. So I was able to get double the hard drive space, and it's a little tiny device that plugs in with a Thunderbolt 4 cable, and I really like it. Now, one day I may kick myself in the rear for not getting this because it's internal storage, but I just thought it just didn't make sense to me. Okay, so anyway, this all started with a QNAP. I did some research. I had to have this. It has 5 bays. It's got 4 other bays here for your SSD or NVMe drives. So I got an NVMe, and then I have a SATA 1 terabyte that are acting in RAID as an accelerator for the 4 drives that are running in RAID 10, and then a hot swap over here. So what does that get me? Well, it's 14 terabytes. So because they're rated in RAID 10, that's given me 28 terabytes, which means by the time the system's finished with it, about 26 terabytes well, let me say that again. Yeah, about 26 terabytes of storage space, which is going to be plenty, just plenty. Along with that, in order for me to get my Windows computer and my Mac speaking to it at fast speeds, I purchased a Netgear. This is the Netgear 5 port, 10 gigabit. See, I'm just showing off. And let me know, do you like this little mouse thing? I don't know if I'm on the fence. I don't know if I'm digging this thing or not. But anyway, that's what that is, and it's a pretty cool device. It has 5 ports that are 10 gigabit. There's the laptop. Here is the SanDisk 4 terabyte extreme portable SSD that is using the USB 3.2 Gen 2. What does that mean? It means it has transfer speeds at 10 gigabytes per second. So that's pretty fast. So I think it was $449. And let's get over here. Another QNAP component. This thing is hot. I mean, literally, it's hot. And this was delivered a few days ago, and I plug it in. I'm trying to put the Ethernet cable in there, and it's like, oh my gosh, they forgot the entire housing. And then I realized, guess what? People that buy that usually also buy, where's it at? It's funny. This thing. Yeah. It's a good idea when you're buying things that you're not familiar with to look at the bottom of the page to see what they bought with it, because what it needed to do, in order to work, was this guy. And this is a 10 gigabyte or 10 gig SFP plus RJ45 copper transceiver. This part, when you touch this part with your hands, you cannot touch it more than 1 second. It will burn you. I don't know why. I've read reviews and it says they get really hot. It is what it is. All right, and that's just to upload and download super fast from QNAP. from my NAS. Also, super important, and you know, this is one of the things with Windows. I have a USB dock, like it's just a port expander, right, with USB that also provides power. But on the Mac side, it's a little bit different because I only get 3 Thunderbolt 4 outputs on my MacBook Pro laptop. But I'm going to have more things to plug in. And I got to learn this the hard way, that you need something. So I did research, and I found that this CalDigit Thunderbolt 4 Element Hub was the best out there. And what this is great for is I'm using 2 of these ports here to run 2 of my monitors, and then I'm running the HDMI out of my laptop to run the 3rd. And then I can also open up my laptop, and now I have 4 screens. And it works really, really cool. All right. And then for the road, when I'm on the road and I need to be able to get into Ethernet, or I want to have an SSD card, or be able to plug in other things, this is a great little gadget. It was like 85 bucks, but this will be helpful when I do things like Florida Mega Mini, other minis that I might attend, presenting at, or Christmas Expo. All right, here, let's keep going. And with that, you have to buy cables. These don't really come with any of those components. So I opted for the 4-footers, which will be plenty long enough. And these are like 27 bucks a pop for a Thunderbolt 4. They're expensive. Now, I know someone's going to say, well, you could have went to Monoprice and got it for 5 bucks. Okay, that's okay. I like the prettiness of that. Then we get to a challenge I have, or did have, and that's I have a mechanical keyboard and I have a mouse, and they are all wired. And trying to get that to work with both systems, I was unplugging it and plugging it into the other window. So again, I go to YouTube and I go to Google and I find options, and not cheap options, but I'll tell you, this keyboard is the bomb. I don't care if you've got Windows, Mac, or Linux. This keyboard is amazing. It has a USB-C connection that you can plug into a dock or a USB port that provides power, and it will charge it. The keyboard illuminates, but only when your hands are over the keys, so it saves on power. So that's really cool. And then this crown button over here is super cool because it can control a lot of different things that are already set for profiles in various applications, including Final Cut Pro. So that's pretty cool. And along with that, I picked up the Logitech MX Master 3 Advanced Wireless Mouse. Super comfortable, feels good, not cheap. My keyboard has lighting on it, the old keyboard, and it's a Logitech, but the IQ software was really messing up in the Mac. It would freeze, it would cause issues, and I said, I am so done with this. So now I don't need that software anymore. And this is a must if you have another computer. This is a Logitech unifying receiver for mouse, keyboards, and just one of these is allowing me to go from my Mac side all the way over to the other side to my Windows side if it's on, and I could even transfer files, and it's pretty cool. So now I can be in both systems if need be. But I have to tell you the truth, I haven't turned on my Windows computer in 3 days, so I'm really trying to force myself to get used to this world. All right, so just warning, this is going to be a long video. And the reason I want to do this, so often when people are all looking possibly at getting a computer, whether it's a MacBook Air, Pro, M1, or whatever, it's hard to make informed decisions on what hardware devices you need to pair with it to make your world just a little bit better. So that's why I want to take my time and share with you my experience in some of the hardware components that I have purchased to make my world a little bit better with the MacBook Pro. Let's get rid of this. On the software side, there were a few things. First of all, the MOV-AVI that does have a Mac version just wasn't working. Everything I exported would not go into Final Cut Pro. it wouldn't even play. I had to get a different software that is the L Media player, which does play just about anything. It's sort of like, what is it, the VLC? I think it is, or I think it's VLC, which is a good player. But this is, I believe this was a free player, and it plays everything, no big deal. But QuickTime wasn't going to play any of those files from MOV AVI, so I've put support tickets together with them and show them what it's doing. They had me try a different version of it, and it still didn't work. So hopefully they'll probably just give me my money back on that, because I've already purchased Camtasia. And Camtasia is a pretty powerful software to use. I believe it's what Canaspader Christmas uses. And not only does it have a reading for the decibels, which is really cool for me, so I know if I need to get louder, I can get closer to the mic, or I can back off. And also I can record with this. But there's even more, because when I finish my recording, it opens up in another app that I can use to edit. But it's just not as good as Final Cut Pro, so I'll just export it from there, put it in Final Cut Pro, and be good to go. Some other softwares, you're seeing one, this little Cursor Pro here. There's all sorts of fun settings in this, so if you are a presenter, this is an interesting option, and we'll see if people give me feedback and say, hey Ron, that just really sucked, because you can right click and you can left click and it does that little animation. Yay. The next one would be the Logi option. I've sort of already explained this, but what this does is allows you to use Flow, and this is the software that allows you to go from one computer to the next, and because it's off, there's a question mark. Hey man, where's your computer? It's not on. And this is a very easy, intuitive software, and it has a lot of customization that you can use for shortcuts and all that good stuff, as you would expect. The next one, Bartender. So this is something that's really kind of interesting. This is up here. If I right click on preferences, what Bartender does is it allows you to set up what you want on the top menu, and then you have a hidden menu bar that you can get to. So on a laptop, things can get cluttered up here. So if I just click on the ... I can jump down here to get to other things like my Shure microphone settings, MOTIF, or if I want to get to Logi options or Snap Camera or my Logitech G Hub, all these things are in this second section. So that's kind of cool, because it saves on some room, so it's very efficient. And then we get to Video Proc. Video Proc is an interesting application. Some of the movies that I get that I'm going to use in xLights are in .mov, and I had some issues with .mov last year, so I standardized on keeping everything in the MP4 world, if that makes sense to you. So let me go back here. Video, whoa, not you. Let's go back. There we go. So we got our video, and I can drag MOV files into this, and if I can grab one, there we go. Hey, there we go. And what's cool about this, it brings it in. It allows me to export this out in any resolution I want, any codec I want. Right here you can see I've had this set to go into MP4, and it's support hardware accelerated. What that means is everything that's in this MacBook Pro that works together, the GPU, the discrete CPU, and the cores of the CPU all work in harmony like they do in Final Cut Pro to help get this thing done pretty quick. So if I go in here, I can change the resolution to something different. And usually I'll use 480 by 320 for P5 panel matrices. There's no sense in doing HD for a P5 panel. You're just wasting space is what you're wasting. So there's no need to do that. So what I'll do is I'll click done on this, and then I'll just hit run. And what you'll see here is it's running through this clip, and it's pretty fast. And then you're done. And then all I have to do is look at, where did it put them? I don't even know. It's put it in the folder I told it to. But it's put it in the videos converted folder. So that's kind of a cool software. There are a lot of software converters out there. Unfortunately, the one that I had on my Windows didn't work in the Mac world. So we're done with that. All right. So the last one, which was really a thorn, because in Mac, when you want to mess with your multiple displays, you end up having to go to your displays here. And then you get this. And I should probably scoot this over just a little bit so it's centered. And that's sort of what you get. And then in your display setting, and it's funky. When you move these around, they're not super fun. Here's my resolutions. This is where I change them all for each monitor. So it's a little clunky, honestly. I think Matt could do a much better job with that. Thank goodness someone else thought the same. And so there's this really cool application up here called Display Menu. And so you can click on each of these displays and you can go over here and choose all these various resolutions. And I'm shooting in 1920 by 800 because I have an ultra wide monitor and this just seems to work better and looks pretty good. I can shoot in 1920 by 1080, but it sort of stretches it out just a little bit because of the monitor. So this looks pretty even. Liking it. Okay. All right, let's continue on. We are now going to go right to xLights. I'm going to explain to you why I love xLights. This is Tsunami. This is the computer breaker of 2020 and 2021. It's caused people to go out and buy laptops that were gaming laptops, hoping to get this thing to render faster than 7 or 8 minutes. On my Windows machine, it takes 176 seconds to render this. And you may have a Windows machine and it may be super fast, maybe Windows 11, maybe you just have a different processor. My Windows rig was pretty expensive, and I think it was 2019 when I got it, with a top-of-the-line processor and 64 gigs of memory. But you're going to see here in a moment another application that I use that when I'm curious what kind of memory is being used, what kind of CPU utilization, and you'll see that right now. We're going to render this. And keep in mind, with this rendering, I am not using render cache. I am not using video encoder for this one because I've sized the videos already, and I find it works better with it turned off. And this is probably going to be somewhere around 60 seconds, 64, 65 seconds to render this completely. So render cache is off. There are no render files for it to draw upon. And we will see what we get. Now, if I click on this button, this tells us the CPU utilization here. You can also see the memory, the data transfer, all that good stuff. It pegged it pretty good with all CPUs. Let's see, where can I get that? There we go. Where is it at? There we go. Let's look at all those cores work, all 10 of them. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. So this is a nice little app, and it is done 61 seconds. There we go, 61.8 seconds. Fantastic, okay? Now, what happens if we turn render cache on? And by the way, when render cache came out, I thought it was just the best thing ever because it could speed up your render time by 30, 40, 50%, depending on what effects you used. Because render cache doesn't work with every one of these effects, not all of them, okay? So let's do this. Let's go to our preferences. We're going to have to do this twice. We're going to have to render twice because this next one's going to build the render files. They're not built yet. So we'll go over here. We will go to our render cache and we will turn this on. And we're out of here. And let's see, does this want to be saved? It does. We'll go back over here. And now we're going to build the render cache files by hitting render again. And I don't expect this speed of render to be too different than the last one. And keep in mind some apps that I have open. I have Final Cut Pro. I have my internet open, a couple different internets open, and that's about it. Shure Plus is alive, Logitech G Hub is alive, and Activity Monitor. Camtasia is going, and so there's several applications going. And the great thing with having a lot of memory, you can do that. This is going to finish up with Matrix here shortly. If you put it at the end of it and follow along, you can see shader, shader, shader. Then it's going to go to warp, pinwheel, and then it's going to finish up here with the GE cubes. Oh, you know what it didn't? Ha! Interesting. So that was 62 seconds. So pretty in a line with what it was before. All right. So let's just go ahead and save it for kicks and giggles. Let's take a look at those files. I want to show you how much room those files are taking up. And I'm going to do that by going to the folder that has the render cache files. So these render cache files were just created today at 4:13 p.m. That's now. So if I right click on this, get info, we're going to see here that this is 28.16 gigabytes. Okay, so remember this number, 2816. Let's just say 28 gigabytes of space. That's what it's going to cost you on one sequence. One sequence that has everything. These are all of the files. Now look at this. The fan matrix cache file is 275 megabytes. Look at that. Shockwaves. Shaders. Somewhere. Where are you, shaders? Video. VU meter. Wave. 24. That's a lot. 28 gigabytes of information you've got to put somewhere on your computer to use render cache. That's one sequence. Now let's find out, is it worth it? We were at 62 seconds, I believe. We're going to render again. This time it's going to draw from the render cache. And we're going to see how much faster is it with render cache on. And is the juice worth the squeeze, as they say? I spent all this money on this laptop, so I'm pretty convinced that I don't think it is. Now, keep in mind, your show may not have nearly 50,000 pixels. Your show may be much smaller, so it's not a big deal, right? So a MacBook Air might be perfect for you, or a base MacBook Pro. As long as it has M1 chip, really, that's all that matters. Don't go out and spend money where you don't need to. Put that into pixels and props. Put it back in your family, maybe. That's what I should do. Okay, here we go. 54 seconds. 54 seconds with render cache. 62 without it. So is 28 gigabytes worth saving 8 to 10 seconds? I can't justify that. I really can't. I just think that's crazy. So here's what I do. I just disable it. I don't need it. This is one sequence that takes the most amount of memory and CPU, and I just don't need it. This is another reason I have the MacBook Pro. This is the reason I went to this platform. And also, there are other things. I mean, it's silly, but when I close down this, yes, I want to save it, save the previews. It's done. It's just done. Easy peasy. I want to bring it back up. It just comes back up super easy. Yeah, I know. I'm in my first one now. I just... Anytime I do this on my, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but anytime I do this and I close this, Windows goes, hold on. We're going to have a little break and we'll get back to you. Okay, we're ready to close now. I'm just like, come on. I'm sure it has to be something on my computer. It just has to be. I can't think of any other reason why. So anyway, you can see all my little practice files over here. That's about it, folks. That's about all I've got for you. I'll be working in this madness here in just a little bit when I finish up this video and do some of my editing and try to shorten it just a little bit. I've been watching tutorials on this, how to use Final Cut Pro. I'm really liking it. It's getting easier and easier for me to understand. And sort of apologies for the long video, but for those of you that are on the fence looking for a new computer and you're wondering what it will be like to be in the Mac world, hopefully this gives you some insight. I'm not a Mac fanboy. I've always been a Windows dude, but this is growing on me very quickly, and certainly working in xLights. I'm in a lower resolution. In xLights, I'm using the full resolution. So it would actually look about, well, I'm not going to change it, but I have a lot of real estate, and then the monitor above is what I use to view my playback, and then the monitor on my right, that's my distraction monitor. That's where email and all the stuff is to the right that I try to ignore. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I look forward to making more tutorials. I promise I'll make them shorter than this one. This will probably be the longest one of the entire year. But a lot of people have been messaging me and emailing me about, hey, how do you really feel? Do you like it? What am I going to get myself into if I change over from Windows to Mac OS? And I'm saying, the water's nice. Jump on in. Come join me. All right, we'll see you guys later. Take care.